Wait 1 second. So, hello and welcome to a kind of interesting episode here today. So this episode is going to be dedicated to Josip and why they should be the next Far Cry game main character. Now, I tell you, Josip today, now if I did the calculator properly, Josip today, it was 2005 that the original Far Cry 2 released. Let me minimize this a little bit so I can actually see. So, it has been quite some time since 2008, the 21st of October. So, our beloved character, who was 48 years old during Far Cry 2, would be 66 years old today. That is very old, I tell you. Very old. He is actually the oldest playable character in all of Far Cry. And that is kind of crazy, I tell you. Now, you're probably wondering, like, why, why should this guy be the next playable Far Cry character? Well, in Far Cry 2, a spoiler here, we do not really know what happens to our buddies, because they don't really get placed as dead, they get placed as missing. And I feel like when I was playing through Far Cry 2 not that long ago, we had a choice between helping the civilians or helping our buddies, and we helped the buddies at first, but then they would always die for some reason. There was just a time limit, so, when I mean die, probably not die, but wounded, but you didn't want to animate that. It really annoys me that bit, I tell you. But I always thought, if we went and saved the civilians, maybe there was a chance that, buddies would survive. Hopefully. Alright. Well, I'm getting a little bit stuffy, I do apologise. So, a little bit of a backstory to get you into who Josip Indromeno is. He is a heavy drinker and smoker. It's taken a toll on his 48-year-old frame by Far Cry 2, but still a bear of a man who can break you in two. Did his mandatory as a paratrooper before finding work as a bodyguard, an enforcer in the former Yugoslavia. Ran a small trucking company, likes high-risk contracts, like here. Guess the money's better. He's supporting his family back in Europe. That's a journal description. Josip Idromeno is an Albanian who was born in Kosovo. He was a paratrooper in the Yugoslavian People's Army, working as a bodyguard and partisan in Kosovo Liberation Army, a paramilitary insurgent organization, and is now a veteran of the war that took place in Yugoslavia. Now, that's a lot of stuff, You could be jumping out of planes with this guy and, he would know everything to do. But, I will say, it is weird that the story of Far Cry 2, how it ends off and all that, I'm not going to spoil it for you if you've not played through the ending of it. I do know that a lot of people struggle with Far Cry 2 as it's kind of hard to get on that little bit of a, grind to it. Especially as missions are a lot more difficult in that game than regular Far Cry. So if you're playing on higher difficulty, well, prepare to die like 500 times. I've died at least 20 times just trying to do one mission and keeping a truck alive. But now I'm getting off track, I tell you. So, he can either be a player character in Far Cry 2 or an NPC ally. We're going to say that he was an NPC ally in this one, because if he is the player character at the end, spoiler here, you either sacrifice yourself, bribing the security guards, or blowing up something by ramming a vehicle into something. It's one of the two. But that was ordered by the Jackal. Now the Jackal is a whole nother, cake, I tell you. A whole nother cake. As we never really got a fully end to Far Cry's Jackal. We kinda just assumed that he died after Far Cry 2, But he kind of never did die, because in Far Cry 3, if I find out where Far Cry 3 starts, I'll just go with release date. It's normally around the release date. So 2012, 2013 is where, or when Far Cry 2, well not Far Cry 2, Far Cry 3 began its, actual story. And so, with that time frame, that is a lot of years, about 4 to 5 years after Far Cry 2. And you can actually hear stories of the Jackal. We never really got a full end to the Jackal story. And I feel like after Josip being an NPC ally, and finding out about the Jackal, I feel like he would take up the responsibility of taking out the Jackal for, his crimes. He's not a bad guy, but he's a bad guy, if you know what I mean. And I feel like that would be like a good, next Far Cry game, going after the Jackal and finally putting an end to his reign. The Jackal's age, I tell you. I never actually checked that there. I meant to check it, but could not check it there. Alright. Alright. He was born in 1972. Well, someone born in 1972 has got to be, quite old for, Wait, I'll just do 12th Jan. Wait 1 second. I'm doing a calculation. They would be 53 years old. Now, Josip would be 66, That's quite, a difference there. But I do feel like after so much fighting, that you can kind of start to see that, the Jackal's probably lost his game, a long time ago, It's kind of like, ooh, sorry about that. Kind of like Josip Seed, I tell you, in Far Cry 5, he does, spoiler, he does live after the game, after the nukes. That's a whole different, timeline there. But, I feel like he would kind of lose his touch, kind of like that. And, alright, so he was born in the United States, this is Jackal, in 1972, making him 36 years old in Far Cry 2. He is an arms dealer who supports both the Allies, Alliance for Popular Resistance, APR, and the United Front for Liberation and Labour, the UFLL. He's been selling his weapons to many countries in Africa for at least 16 wars. I guess you could kind of count that as 17, if you think about it. Because also, there's another bit saying that Jackal was born in 1955. And this is confirmed that Jackal is not Jackal. That's a whole thing, I do kind of feel like, it's a whole, mystery, I tell you, that's kind of never been fully, wrapped up with the Jackal. There's too many loose ends, that's what I will say. But let me go back here, I lost my place where I was. I do feel like Far Cry has a lot of potential with this character of Josip Indromeno. Because imagine what kind of game you could have, Yeah, we have this old guy, but he could be running around with, a younger buddy, trying to fight, whatever, he's fighting, He could be taken down, let's see, dictators, or, we've already taken down so many dictators, I tell you. We could be slowly dismantling, his empire, going across the entire world, different countries, Greece, Africa, going somewhere in Africa, we could go to South America, so much potential. You know, it could be a Far Cry game to really wrap up Far Cry and, you know, whole, well, you know, it's a, you know, money bank basically, you know. But that money bank might break, you know, depending on if they make another, you know, not the best game. I will say Far Cry 6 has some of the beautiful graphics, I tell you. Some of the most beautiful graphics you ever been on a jet ski riding over the ocean, you know, that's a beautiful time, I tell you. Beautiful time. Just takes forever to get everywhere. But I will say Josip would probably be one of the best characters to do, you know, a Far Cry game around. Because he has all this history, and it feels like a loose end. Like, you know, he never got, like, fully ended. I remember looking at the forums, and there's people talking about what really happens to the buddies after, you know, the game. There's supposed to be, like, a betrayal, but I've not gone to that bit in the Far Cry 2, so, you know, a little bit of spoiler there. But, in the betrayal, you know, you could just run away. Someone said, you know, if you just run away, you know, you don't have to kill them. Just run away and then, you know, they'll quickly just give up. And, you know, that could be, you know, what happens, you know, for, like, you know, well, you know, we don't know if Giuseppe was actually got to be there, you know. I do apologise if I say I know, you know, or not, because my nose keeps bubbling up, so when I'm trying to speak, it's not letting me. But the reason why I wanted to talk about this idea is that I feel like it's a great idea. And that it could bring closure to, you know, a lot of Far Cry, I tell you, is getting rid of the Jackal. Now, you could even bring back some of the other buddies, you know, like Corbani. You know, Corbani was a great guy. You know, he was helping us out so much, you know. And then, you know, that quest at the bar, and then, you know, he's gone, you know, he's missing now. Missing dead, you know. We never really get told. It's like, you know, Halo Spartans over here, you know, they're always MIA. You know, try to track down, like, you know, what happened. Oh, no, they're MIA. But, you know, he normally uses shotguns in the game. So, you know, he does have, like, a lot of different skills there. Because, you know, using shotguns and then also being in the paratroopers, you have to use different guns in the paratroopers. Like, if I look up, you know, trooper. Can never spell paratrooper, I tell you. Yugoslavia. Weapon. Yeah, so they would use Yugoslav carbines, M24, and a 7.9mm. So, you know, were in use along with the Gasser revolvers for the purpose of fire support. You know, that's a lot of different, very light machine gun were used. Oh, the Zerbroger, you know, I'm gonna butcher this. ZB 30 light machine guns, you know, as well as Polish-made mortars and 46mm caliber. That is quite interesting. You know, this guy has so much skills, I tell you. He's literally main character material, I tell you. And I do feel like, you know, even with his age being 66 years old, he could still make a fine, you know, main character. He could make a fine main character. So, that is why I believe Josip Indromeno would be a great Far Cry, you know, next main character. The next player, you know, character. You know, so much potential, you know, you could have him run like 5 meters and then, you know, you just hear his knees, you know, crack. Knee cracking. Terrible pain. But it's also funny because, you know, you look down at your leg and you wonder, why is it not glowing like a glow stick, you know, after all that cracking? But if I had to ask of what I would want from Far Cry 7, it would be, so, you know, we had to wait this long for, you know, closure to the Jackal. You know, I would probably ask for, probably the radio towers back, because in Far Cry 5 you're walking around in the mist and all that, you know, to discover places, and then you have to defeat, you know, certain stuff and you unlock more of the map, you know. It's kind of like the bell towers and all that, but I really wish that we had the radio towers and bell towers back. Because it was like, you know, an obstacle to see, like, certain sights and all that. Like, even if you don't, you know what's around you, you know, just turning them on, you know, gives you, you know, a great view of, you know, where the map is, you know. Sorry if I say you know or not. It gets stuck in my vocabulary when I'm trying to find words. But radio towers, I do wish that they would make a return, because they were always like, you know, something like, you know, parkour, you know, trying to, you know, get to the top of them to discover, like, what's around you. Like, yeah, they were tedious sometimes, but, you know, in Far Cry 4 I would always try and break them and try and bring the helicopter to them. You know, trying to get them all the way up to the top. Even the hardest difficulty ones, you know, I would always get up the top, turn on the radio, get back in it, and just lie off. It was a great time. But I would say, if they just copied like Far Cry 4 over, gave it like, you know, better AI, I feel like Far Cry 5 would have been, you know, better in certain bits. Especially, you know, Far Cry 2, there is no civilians, basically. There is basically no civilians, apart from cutscenes. That's the only time that there's ever been civilians in Far Cry 2. And it's super annoying. I could just be driving down the road and there's like 5 jeeps, and they all turn around to fight me, you know. Because they're all, you know, enemy forces. There is no civilians, you know. I could just be driving down the road and bam, you know. I say you know a lot, do apologize. But, there is a lot that we could ask for Far Cry 7, I tell you. I don't really care about the graphics, I tell you. I would rather have something more enjoyable. Sorry, that was my heater overheating there. It turns off after a little bit. But, if I had to wish something from Far Cry... Sorry, I'm turning on my fan there. Far Cry 7, I would wish for less graphical, because it kind of feels like, you know, a last thing that they should do, and just make an enjoyable game. Like, I don't want to go and hunt down like 300 lost letters in Far Cry 3, you know. I just want to, you know, explore, find like secrets. Maybe there's like secret weapons or secret, you know, historical stuff, you know, like temples and all that. You know, it'd be like, you know, Tomb Raider over here. But there's just really a lot of potential with, like, you know, Josip here. Like, you could have him going all over the world, or you could have him based in one country, but I feel like going all over the world would be, like, pretty cool, you know, liberating so many outposts, you know, different weaponry, different groups and all that, that are all funded by the Jackal. And we could have, like, so many of the other companions that may or not survived Far Cry 2. Like, in Far Cry 2, they say the best, character to play as is Mari. So that's the one that you should play as if you play the game. Let's see. There's Andrei Hippolyte. He's a Haitian. I was gonna say African. No, he's Haitian. He's a Port Ola Prince. You know, that's place of birth. 6'2". Like, that is so much potential. He's paramilitary insurgency. CIA. Aborted assassination attempt. You know, a lot of, you know, potential, I tell you. Flora Gullerine. I don't think I've even met Flora Gullerine. They're Cuban Angolan. That's pretty sick. Like, you have so many different characters that, you know, would be great, but I gotta tell you, I would love to just see a game where Josip and Corbani, you know, meet up, you know, and just, you know, they're the two main characters, I tell you. Corbani would be, like, Corbani's not actually that, you know, old. Well, he's old, but not as old as Giuseppe there. I call him Giuseppe, but, you know, he's Josip. But Corbani's only 45 years old, you know. three or 2 years older, you know, it's Giuseppe. Yeah, it's quite weird. But he was assistant superintendent for the SMF, instructor Kenya, GSU, rail security officer, counter privacy officer. This guy, like, you know, has a lot of stuff, you know. That, you know, a lot of stuff, I tell you. Bungled the evacuation of his clients after collapse of government. Guess he's still paying for that. No, I will say, there's so many companions in Far Cry 2 that you could just make your whole new game, you know, just these characters, you know. There's plenty of backstory already written, and it could be fleshed out. Who knows, maybe we could get a, you know, game based in, like, you know, younger Giuseppe times. Nah, that would never work. But I would love to see, you know, Giuseppe come back in the next Far Cry. You know, bring back bell towers, radio towers, you know, that kind of stuff. Feels like it would be a good time, I tell you. Feels like it would be a good time. Alright, instead of me dragging this out any further, do apologise, I'll end this off here. So, hopefully you've enjoyed this discussion. Have a nice day, stay public level. If so, just sneaks the vitamins, very important. And bye, see you next time, bye bye.